What's the deal, fam? Y'all up in here? Yeah, y'all up in here today. I have some shit to talk to y'all about today because y'all hear a lot of noise in the background because I got the kids with me. You know, we rocking out. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no problem. I mean, not with me. They live with me, but they're up and about. Usually when I make videos, they're down and, you know what I'm saying, or relaxing in their rooms. So, but today I got them with me, you know. It's no biggie because this is a family affair. So let's get into this, man, because I've been trying to collab with people. Well, not trying to collab. Let me rephrase this so that it's taken in proper context. When you're building, I try to reach out to people with like minds, like motives, and like reasoning for wanting to move in the same directions. Until you start to pay attention very closely that you and your peers are not the same. You and your people you meet are not the same. We are not the same. Which is why so many of my peers can't grasp the concept of taking care of the community or putting back into the community. And let me tell you why we're not the same. Although we went to the same schools, we didn't have the same classes. Although we grew up in the same community, on the same street, we didn't have the same parents, uncles, aunts, or support system. Be it those who are not even part of the family but support you wholly. And it's not until you start to operate or move in a nice, positive, forward manner you start to realize these situations. Like, for example, we had a school in our neighborhood where majority of the community or majority of the neighborhood kids went here. Half of the building were gifted kids. The other half were regular school children. But you wouldn't notice unless you were in the gifted programs. You didn't know, I mean, you're right, you didn't know that the school was separated like that. So the regular classroom kids didn't really know that their peers were gifted, or, you know, because you're kind of intermingled until they would notice that you guys had a vast amount of field trips in various areas of the state. You guys were introduced to multiple programs and multiple experiments that you were a part of and didn't know you were a part of it because the government paid for the gifted kids to get special programming and to be involved with special experiments that you didn't know was experiments. I'm saying that to say we are not the same. A lot of your peers are not the same. If you were a gifted child and you were in gifted classes, then you know that you were not the same. Although you played together and grew up in the same communities and did a lot of the things that were similar, like street ball, basketball at the community court, your thought process and the things that you did or the ways that you would try to place yourself in community were different. Also, your motive behind it was different. And see, I'm gonna break it down to you. I've been doing community service since, I could say, honestly, I can honestly say the 4th grade. You see, this is going to be a peer that watches this that don't understand. Well, how could you say that we went to the same school? Well, let me get this out. Let me get this clear. We went to the same school. We were from the same community, but we did not have the same class. We did not have the same classes, and we did not have the same test scores. So, here we go. It wasn't until 7th grade with junior high school where we were youth leaving school on foot to go from grade school to grade school on foot to take pride into reading to the younger kids. We were collecting meals, handing meals out to people of less fortunates as youngsters. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been affiliated with several nonprofit organizations. Big, small, scammers, non-scammers. I've also been a peer counselor for families of new children. Or, let me word this better. Couples with their first baby. You know, young couples. Or old. I've counseled a couple older people too. I also attended college for private investigation. I also was a gang leader. I also manipulated county lines for drug trafficking. Now I can say all of this because statute of limitation. Plus my life an open book, so I need you to understand who and what you're talking to when I say we are not the same. Because although we were on the same streets, although we were doing the same crimes, although we were maybe perhaps doing some of the same drugs, we were not the same in the beginning. Therefore, our end game is not the same. Now I bring all that full circle to say, when reaching out to your peers to try to get ahead, these are the things you must understand. Don't get discouraged because you don't find help. When you trying to reshape the community in which you took part into the destruction of, don't feel bad when you can't get that same help to put it back together. You see, if I come down and I got 3, 4, 5 pounds of that goodness in that trinut, and I step out on the block or on one of the strips and holler, let's get it in, I'll have so many voluntary participants, it'll be crazy. But you take a good book, some good literature, and a good game plan down there, and ain't nobody trying to hear shit you trying to say, bro. Or then everybody turns into a chief and starts telling you what they've done. And I've done this before, and I've done that before. Hey, keep it down. Thank you. I've done this before, and I've done that before, or we do this, and we do that. Look, man, gathering the kids together for a barbecue at the community park is not doing shit. Yeah, you played with them, but if y'all gonna do the same activity that y'all do normally at the same park, when the same group of kids are playing there, but now they're under a little bit more parental look at, then nothing changed. If you didn't come up with something to present the people that accumulated there so that they can see some example, nothing changed. What I mean by that is, while you were there, did you bring the youth together? Did you bring the adults together, the elders together? Why are you talking about no guns? Put the guns down and put the fist up and put the dope down and stay out of jail. Don't go to jail. Are you standing there with your pants half across your ass while you telling them that? Are you standing there reeking like a fresh stick of that goodness while you telling him that? Did you even gather them in front of everybody so that people could see a conversation, the dialogue between the young and the old, where you could bridge the gap by giving some solution to some of the problems and listening to what the youth is saying is really coming down on their shoulders? Because for one thing that I know for sure, and two things for certain, growing up we used to hear a lot of this. The elder would say things like, well, what are you guys stressing about? Y'all young, what you got to stress about? Stress existed when you came through the womb. Stress existed to you. When you came through the womb and seen the first daylight, stress existed to you. Talk to the youth. Get to know the youth. Vice versa. Talk to the elders. Get to know the elders. With no conversation, there could be no bridging and no gaps, because the conversation is the mortar. The topics, the things you go through, the circumstances are the bricks. What do you need to build with? Find you a square. What do you stand on? What are your principles? Lay your footers. Who do you surround yourself with? What do you intake? What do you feed yourself? Lay the foundation. And with all the principles, circumstances, and situations, through conversation and bridging the gap, put your brick and mortar together and get the building. We are not the same. We will never be the same. The point is to be the best version of you, though, because you know you. You know your strengths and weaknesses. You know your strengths and weaknesses. Quit being a pussy. Put it on the table. Show your strengths. Show your weaknesses. Weigh them. Get it balanced. You're always going to have weaknesses. You're always going to have strengths. Balance it. Get your life together. This is why we are not the same. I can't change you. You can't change me. But we can teach and introduce ideas and different circumstances that can better one another for the path that one another is on individually. That's what it's about. No, I don't want you to be me. I don't want to be you. But know that we are not the same. If you haven't read a physical book within the past 2 weeks, we are not the same. If you have a wife and you ain't rubbed their back or rubbed their feet in the past 2 weeks, we are not the same. If you have children that you are not homeschooling because you see the weakness in that public compulsory education bullshit, then we are not the same. If you participate with no truth in those holiday energies that come around, then we are not the same. Let me give you an example. If you go shopping during the Christmas time, when they're selling and making these things available under the illusion that it's cheaper, and your kids know that there's no Santa and none of this is, we're buying stuff. That's the good part. But if they actually think and you let them get into the spirit of this, we are not the same. If you wake up in the morning and the first thing on your mind is getting prepared to go make somebody else money, we are definitely not the same. If you spend most of your time thinking about things to consume versus things to create for someone else's consumption, we are not the same. If you're religious and the Bible, Torah, or Quran, or holy tablets is moving your life, and those are the principles in which you let rule your life, those stories, we are not the same. You hear me? We are not the same. If you're a grown-ass man and you spend at least 6 to 7 hours a day on a video game system, we are not the same. If you're a grown-ass man and catch every game every week, we are not the same. I don't mean highlights, I mean you watch the game. We are not the same. If you were standing in a cut this week, today, tomorrow, and was shooting dice, we are not the same. If you got up this morning to go stand on the corner to accumulate with the rest of the homies to see what kind of drugs we sat in the day or talk about what we did last night at the hood bar, we are not the same. Now, by me saying this, we are not the same, I'm not saying it to be let me make sure I get this correct. I'm not saying this to belittle or demean anyone by saying we are not the same. I want you to see the example of what's not the same so you can start to place yourself in some of those positions. Start to read a little more. Because you can't even defend your kids at school, talking to the teachers and the principals and the social workers they might want to bring in to talk to your child because they say your child is slow, but your child is not slow. He's just a little hard-headed and refuse to do what these people are trying to get him or her to do at the pace or in the structure in which they're trying to give it. So because you don't read, because your vocabulary isn't extensive, some of the things that these people are saying to you about your own child is going over your head and you agreeing with it because they're giving it to you with a Coke and a smile. You hear me? Shout out to my boy Mokam. But like I said, they're giving it to you with a Coke and a smile. That's why we're not the same. Those are the things I mean. If you don't have a brand that you're building to sell or already built, we're not the same. If you ain't waking up in the morning, you might not put on that Tommy or that Polo because you're putting on your own. You ain't spraying on that Dolce & Gabbana because you're spraying on your own. You're not using that Bliss Deck because you're using your own. You didn't wash with Irish Spring because you washed with your own. You hear me? You didn't go to McDonald's for breakfast because you was in your own kitchen cooking your own. These are things you need to understand. We are not the same. I'm trying to get you to understand that saying we are not the same is not negative. I'm trying to inspire you. I'm trying to push you to become something that you're not, because it's only going to be through your uncomfortability that you'll be able to move. The only time people move around and become better is when they become uncomfortable in the position in which they're sitting in. Otherwise, you're just comfortable. No matter how you want to look at it, word it, change your face around, think about it differently, use justifications, it's the same, brother, my sister, it's the same. But guess what? We are not the same. Again. From the royal family. From the Royal Harper family, we extend our hand in partnership and collaboration. That's all. To those who are ready, willing, and able, and wanting better, wanting to move further, Talk to your boy, Big Dean. I'm right here on the app. All the time. Coffee Talk app. Move when I feel like it. Now, I'm not talking about outside on no street that don't belong to me. I'm talking about the avenue that I built. My avenue. I'm outside on the app all the time. Get to know me. Get to know us.